This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Let's do this. Welcome to a Thursday edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Andrew Paterson with you, along with Michael Remis. And, man, we got a great show coming up. Let me just move my mic a little closer to myself. We got an awesome show coming up today. We are going to get ready for CFL kickoff tonight, week 3. Elks, I just about said their old name. Elks and BC Lions going at it at BC Place. Marshall Ferguson of CF Perspective and TSN's going to join us a little bit later on, actually in about 15 minutes. Always love talking football with Marsh. And Geoff Fienberg, my good friend, will pop on the program. We'll talk a little NFL, see what the buzz around his Chargers are. Maybe get to his thoughts on some of the divisions coming up. And we'll finish it off with a visit live from Winnipeg Jet winger Andrew Copp, who signed a 1-year deal last week with the Winnipeg Jets to return to the club. As always, we're brought to you by our great family of sponsors, including Canadian Club Whiskey, Royal Sports, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Paramount Services Limited, Not Autocorp, Boston Pizza, Little Brown Jug, Assiniboia Downs, Breezy Bend Country Club, and Coolbet Canada. Let's get right to it and welcome in Michael Remis to the program. Remo, the question everybody wants to know, or at least I want to know, how are you? And how did the big playoff game go last night in the Jewish Men's Slow Pitch League?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm feeling a bit sore, and our 2-year title reign is over. Our team suffered a devastating loss in the second round. I don't know if I want to get into it too much. There was some controversy as we were forced to, due to a scheduling error, we were forced to forfeit our first game. I've been playing sports for a long time. I don't think I've ever been a part of a forfeit. So, yeah, it was disappointing, but we had a good 2-year title reign, our squad. I actually went to the warning track. They got knocked down, I think, by the wind. It was one of
Shades of the 2014 Media Home Run Derby.
One of my hardest hit balls ever. But the forfeit, our team will be putting an asterisk on the trophy this season. I can guarantee you that. Big league controversy.
Few things in the world are funnier than big, heated, controversial situations involving adult recreational sports.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And I don't know, it's so silly because it's adult rec sports, but I'm like in the middle of the game, like our team and their team like have a bit of a rivalry. I started yelling.
There's some beef in the league.
Definite beef. Because like, look, if their team said, hey, you know what, 4 of our guys are out of town, we can't field a squad here on a day notice. We'd be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Like, we'll accommodate you guys. We're all friends here. Let's do it. And they weren't willing to do that for us, and there was some beef. I ended up, in the middle of the game, you get fired up. I started yelling F-bombs at guys on their team.
Angry softball guy. Remo turned into angry softball guy. Wow, I never thought we'd see the day.
Yeah. I turned into. I felt really bad after the game, but you get into competition. Sometimes it changes you. So I don't know.
Well, it was a good run for the Glover boys. I had to ask because I knew you had the game last night. We hadn't discussed it yet, so I was like keeping tabs on what's happening in the world of rec softball here in the city of Winnipeg. I did my first draft last night. It was our big dynasty auction. And in a way, I wish this was like the last one because it seems like there's the most thinking, salary cap and contracts and stuff like that. Very, very fun. And I realize now this league's been going on, I think, for 11 or 12 years. So it's definitely a different format. I broke the bank to get Stephon Diggs. He was one of the few top receivers that were out there. But I'm now in full fantasy football mode, getting emails and notifications on drafts coming up over the next couple of weeks. So I do promise we will have some more NFL content over the next couple of days because I know, or next couple of weeks, I guess, before the beginning of the season, because I do know that, like many of us, you sort of catches up on you. You go, holy smokes, we're into the preseason. Oh, my draft is on Thursday. So we'll talk a little fantasy with Geoff Fienberg, but we'll talk NFL. We'll talk some golf. He's always just so much fun to have on the program. We'll focus in on the Canadian Football League with Marshall Ferguson, and then we'll talk some hockey, off-season, contract, and more with Andrew Copp of the Winnipeg Jets coming up a little later on. Remo, we may as well get to, and I don't even know if this is news. It's certainly interesting, and it's certainly something that we and our listeners will be talking about. It's the Andrew Harris situation with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Now, difficult to really read too much into this, I guess, but it was quite interesting to see the Winnipeg Blue Bombers team account tweet out a video from closed practice today of Andrew Harris running, catching a football with the eyes emoji. Very, very interesting. I'm still not expecting Andrew Harris to play this weekend, barring, a major change from what we've been hearing. But I got to tell you, for Blue Bomber fans, first it was Darvin Adams getting back on the practice field. Now 33 is out there. Nothing but good news for the Bombers, who were 2-0 heading into Toronto for their Saturday afternoon 3 p.m. kickoff.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. And if you're setting a fantasy lineup, I'd still think Oliveira is going to start. Darvin Adams, I think, is the one maybe has a better shot to play. He kind of just came back in. They've been looking good at receiver with Lawler and Rashid Bailey, who caught the TD last game. Very nice grab from him, and got a shout out on Twitter from Meek Mill. I don't know if you saw that one.
That was great.
That one has, yeah, that was pretty. That was pretty cool. So maybe Adams will come back next week. And so I think if you're playing fantasy, I would rock Lawler if Adams isn't out. But if Adams is in, it gets, I think, a bit murkier and more unknown. But I think with Harris and Adams back, when they do come back, it'll give them that many more weapons. Especially, I think Harris is working the receiving game, blocking as well. I mean, he's really does it all. So hopefully he comes back and is able to play soon. But there he is. He's rocking that knee brace here. I don't know if he's worn that in the past. I'll play this video again. I don't know what that means, but they showed this video. They put the eyes emoji, and the eyes emoji, that's all you need to know. It says everything. So we can make our speculations based on that.
All eyes on 33. Again, it was a closed practice, so I imagine the team will put out a depth chart for the game, traveling, of course, to Toronto tomorrow, presumably doing a walkthrough and then kicking off 3 p.m. Winnipeg time on Saturday afternoon. Now, there is a game tonight, which we'll get to in a minute. The biggest story in the league, Remis, has been the Calgary Stampeders and the Bo Levi Mitchell injury. And it was somewhat assumed, certainly after Bo Levi Mitchell sort of compared Michael O'Connor to a young Ricky Ray, which raised a lot of eyebrows. Everyone was excited to see a young Canadian quarterback get a start. It's not happening now. We've got the Calgary Stampeders depth chart, and Jake Meyer will be the starting QB in the Week 3 game at home against the Montreal Alouettes. Neither of them are Bo Levi Mitchell, so I'm not sure that really changes the scenario going into the game, that the Stamps are up against it and staring 0-3 right in the face. But it was going to be a pretty neat storyline for a young Canadian to go in and get a start, and apparently that's not happening.
Second week in a row, Huss. We get all excited. Oh, it's going to be a Canadian starting. Last week it was BC. Then Mike Riley, Nathan Rourke and Mike Riley says, no, I'm coming in. And this week we get all hyped for Michael O'Connor. And last second, they start this guy, Jake Meyer. I had to look him up. He's not even listed on DraftKings if you're playing fantasy. I could start Cam Meredith, who got cut. But DraftKings doesn't quite have Jake Meyer with a salary. I was hoping for some cheap Calgary stack. So I don't know. I don't know what this means. We'll have to talk with Marshall. He'll probably be more informed. But I think it's funny that 2 weeks in a row now, Canadian QB kicked out. And one thing that is interesting, too, about this, Huss, how many teams have had to use two quarterbacks? We're in week 3. Hamilton's gone with 2. Calgary's gone with 2. BC's gone with 2. That's 3 of the 9 teams. And and Toronto's gone with 2 as well. Arbuckle pulled in, came in, and he'll be the starter. So 4 of the 9 teams gone with 2 quarterbacks. And I know Paul LaPolice being asked all about Matt Nichols this week. They had a bye last week, and he threw for 70 yards in the win in week 1. But they say that he's fine, and they're going to be rocking him.
Is that? I'm not sure. I think Hamilton was tweeting. Well, they did. A win's a win. You don't criticize a win, right?
Yeah.
You don't critique a W. They got the W in one of the ugliest offensive performances in a victory in CFL history, but it was still a win, and they're 1-0 going into this game. We'll touch on this maybe a little bit later on when we take a look at the Coolbet odds, but just paying attention to what is going on in the Canadian Football League, we kind of went into it extensively on the Lock Shop yesterday, but have mentioned the lines throughout the week and just how low the lines were. I mean, the Bombers and Argos opened up at 41.5, and that was my play yesterday on the Lock Shop for the weekend, the over on that number, and I'm not sure if I can take much credit for it. Everyone just thought, wow, this is such a low line in the CFL on 2 pretty good teams. We're taking the over. But Remo, we've seen this line move 4 points since it was opened at Coolbet. 45.5 right now, the number for the Bombers and Argonauts, which is the same as the Montreal Alouettes and Stampeders, which opened up, I think, 3 points higher.
Yeah, where's Derek Taylor? He was the one telling us, take the over, guys. First couple weeks of the season, these teams, they're going to be rusty, and it hasn't gone that way. We're seeing some low lines. The game tonight is the highest one of the week, 48 points, Edmonton, BC. I'm kind of expecting, if Edmonton can ever find the end zone, Trevor Harris, he can throw for all these yards, but when they get into the red zone, I saw some, I think it was Ben Kramer, Fantasy Raider, was saying that the Elks are a bit allergic to scoring TDs this season. So you'd have to think that'll even out for them. I would see big points tonight. Bombers, Argos. I'm not sure. I mean, the Argos really struggled. I thought Bethel Thompson missed a lot of throws on open guys that hurt them. The Bombers' defense is elite. And, the Bombers also, they had that big pick. Caleros threw the pick in the end zone late, which kind of kept Toronto in it, even though the Bombers did kind of dominate them. So we'll have to wait and see. I like the additions that Toronto made on receiver with Rogers, Daniels, Collins. But, who is John White? What a nice TD run he had last week as well.
John White was awesome. He was the Argos offense for all intents and purposes. And, I'll give a shout out to our pal Nick Kowalski. And Nick came on last week. Nick was also doing some photography and had an amazing shot. I'm not sure what sort of camera or what effect he was using on it, but it was a shot from the end zone on the White touchdown. And I know he tweeted it out and tagged White. White was all fired up. He retweeted it. So anyway, shout out to our pal Nick. We'll have to get Nick back for some Nick's picks maybe in the next couple weeks. We will, of course, get to all the National Football League stuff with Fienberg a little bit later on. But we're going to dive into the week in the Canadian Football League coming up with Marshall Ferguson in a few minutes. Remo, before we do, though, there is a little bit of NHL news. Well, not too much, but number 1 overall pick, Owen Power, is going back to Michigan. He's just going to let the Buffalo Sabres go through one more year, presumably, of abject misery before beginning his professional career. And he's on a good team. The university experience was probably very different last year.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really blame him for doing that, especially with where the Buffalo Sabres are right now as a franchise, but not too often number 1 overall picks decide that, they're going to go back to school instead of going to the best league in the world and start getting paid.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, Huss, because, Buffalo, their team is a mess, and do you want to really be doing that? And I kind of agree. Maybe you do want that university experience, and we're going to be having another Michigan hockey player, Andrew Copp, come on, but the thing this year, I would say, hey, go pro, get your money, try to get to free agency earlier. I think that would probably be your goal. But obviously you want to, develop and become better. But with the new rules in college on name and likeness in Michigan, I think is a pretty big hockey school. Maybe there are some opportunities. And I don't know if Andrew Copp could speculate later, like what opportunities there would be for a guy like
some
Owen
nil
Power.
money. Some nil money.
Yeah, some nil money. I saw a girl from gymnastics who's like the most followed on TikTok and Instagram, got a big deal with a modeling agency. So there's dollars out there. Even as just for, doing appearances or selling autographs or I don't know, like what is available, but I think that's going to add something for college guys who are looking to stay in college, especially if you're at a big school for hockey like Michigan. So I think that's, something going forward, not just in hockey, but in all sports. Hockey, I think obviously probably lower end for ability to make money compared to basketball and football. But I think depending on your school, I mean, hockey's pretty big in some of those, like Minnesota as well. And
well, I'll tell you what, the UND guys, hockey guys, those guys will be, doing some deals in Grand Forks and Fargo in and around the province. But again, it's a limited market, only so many people, only so much money, but still better than what they were able to do before, which was absolutely nothing. So, I think everyone agrees this is a smart and the right thing to do going forward. And, it could change some individuals' decisions. Although I have told this story before, and I won't mention who this player was, but it was an off-record conversation with a former member of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers that played at a Big 12 school. And I asked him, what was it like coming to the Canadian Football League after you finished college? And he goes, well, I had to take a pay cut to start off with. So I don't know, maybe some of these guys, at least the football guys, have been getting some pretty good money in the past already. Remo, the other interesting little bit from the National Hockey League is a return visit on the cover of NHL 22 for one Auston Matthews. I get it. Auston Matthews is one of the biggest stars in the game, and he plays in it's probably more the market than the player. But what is this, twice in 3 years? Matthews is back on the cover?
Yes.
I guess all that business in Scottsdale with the lady in the car didn't affect his marketability too much, or certainly not to EA at least.
Yeah, I'll show. They had the big reveal. I'm a big player of the NHL, been playing, since the early days on Sega Genesis, so I'm pretty hyped, but you always like to put your marketing hat on, like, who's good for the cover? And now they just did Matthews 2 years ago, and I don't know if this is, saying something about the NHL that they don't have enough marketable players to put on a video game. Auston Matthews, I think he hits a lot of good spots. He plays on a Canadian team. He's a top player in the league. He's also American. And he's also heading to UFC's in Justin Bieber's entourage. So I think, to a casual fan, I think Auston Matthews checks a lot of boxes. But I don't know if that means that NHL's got another, I'll pull up the trailer here. I don't know if that means like NHL's got more problems that they can't find legit guys to to put on the cover. I thought McKinnon would have been
seriously the cover, like he just sitting in the hallway taping his stick.
I don't know, that's what they tweeted out.
That's the cover. I'll tell you what, Energy 21's version of the Kevin Cheveldayoff cover is a hell of a lot better than the Auston Matthews cover. I realized it would be unconventional to put a general manager on the cover, but
that's what they tweeted out. I don't
know. I mean, that's what I saw too. Like that. That's the cover. Maybe there's a new feature in the game where you actually have to tape your own stick. Work on your equipment before the game before you go out and play.
I can pull
it's
up
in the game.
I can pull out their website. That's the cover of like the X Factor edition. This is the standard edition. I have no idea. That does seem like an odd picture. A guy like not looking at the camera, taping his stick. If you're listening to the podcast, that's what the picture they're choosing is. So I don't know. I'm curious how it's gonna be. It's if you are a gamer, it's a new game engine this year. So it's people say are going to be laughing. It's the same game every year. This is actually going to be a different game. We'll see how it plays. The graphics look very cool, but I really don't care what the graphics are. I'm more about how is the game fun.
Now, do we have to get the next generation consoles to play this?
No, you can play. They have the new game engine on PS4 and Xbox One, and then if you buy it on those, you also get the free upgrade when you upgrade to the Xbox Series or PS5.
Okay. So where are you at? When are you going to get the new? Although I still think it's tough for people to even find PS5s.
I think it's tough for people to find them. I think I'm probably a year away. I don't think I'm going to do it this year. I think next year I'll do it. Maybe the price will drop more, and I just don't think that there's a reason to upgrade if the same game is going to be on the old generation.
Gitch, great line. It's the Niku rookie card of NHL covers.
Yes.
Just in the civvies, not on the ice, not doing anything else. Hey, what's up? What's up with everybody in chat? Hey, there's James Robinson. Wrench Doozer. It would have been better to have a picture of McDavid flossing his teeth. Oh, hey, there's Nikolai Baranov. Aren't you impressed with the way I can read the Cyrillic, Remo? Nikolai is back. Hello,
God.
everyone in Winnipeg. What's up, Nikolai? Hockey season just around the corner. Great to have you with us.
Here, Chuck Winnipeg says, why not Nathan McKinnon? Because Nathan McKinnon doesn't approve of playing video games in your free time. Nathan McKinnon wants you to be working out, keeping your body, in good shape and eating healthy. So I don't think video games is a productive use of time for Nathan McKinnon.
You know what will be a productive use of our time? Talking CFL football with my man, Marshall Ferguson. We'll get to that right away. Hey, I see Leighton Janis. Leighton was our big winner of our first I Love Rye package from Canadian Club last Friday on the program. Leighton, have not forgot about you. I believe I'm picking up your prize and some more stuff this afternoon. So I'll hit you with the DM and let you know how you can pick it up. Make sure you're with us tomorrow. It's not a home game, but we will have a little something for the end of the show. We always like to end Fridays like that, so we will do that. And a big thanks to Canadian Club for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. Of course, Canadian Club is the official whiskey of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We've seen quite a few CCs and ginger ale and CCs and Coke poured at the stadium in and around the Brugal Rum Hut and by the Jim Beam Stillhouse. You can maybe even have a little salsa tequila as well. It's all there, part of the family. But Canadian Club, great sponsors of ours, and we have an amazing, amazing Canadian Club contest heading into Banjo Bowl. Make sure you're paying attention next week on Winnipeg Sports Talk, and we'll let you know more details on that. And a big shout out to Royal Sports. Royal Sports, I've told you many times before, it has been with me since day one of doing anything in this space. And that, of course, was the Shaw NFL Sunday Ticket Show. And with NFL season coming up, and with what we're doing here at Winnipeg Sports Talk, I'm going to save this till tomorrow. But we partnered up with Royal on something that I know many of you have been waiting for and many of you are going to love. I was down at the store yesterday. They are ready for hockey season. My God, the amount of sticks and equipment that's there is frankly overwhelming. And the merchandise ready to go for the upcoming season. If you're thinking about maybe a Nate Schmidt jersey or Brendan Dillon, or just want to get some great Bomber gear for the next game or getting ready for NFL kickoff, it's all there at Royal Sports. And again, we'll tell you tomorrow about something very exciting we've done with Royal that I think you're going to want to know about. And of course, our friends at Nick and Nicky DQ, the weekend is just about here. Doesn't look like it's going to be very summery, and that might mean just a trip to DQ with the kids, some blizzards, maybe a couple burgers, and then back inside if we're getting this long-awaited rain. 4 locations in Winnipeg and southern Manitoba: DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. The Nick and Nicky DQ group. Big thanks to Nick and Nicky for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, we are back at it tonight with CFL football on TSN. It is the 0-2 Edmonton Elks taking on the British Columbia Lions. And maybe the most noteworthy thing about the Lions, they got a new owner yesterday. Let's kick it around with our man, Marshall Ferguson. We're going to see him doing some games on TSN this year, and he's covering the league top to bottom at CF Perspective. What's going on, Marsh? How are you?
I wasn't hungry until I saw that massive blizzard floating in behind you, Hustler. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking there might be a little mid-afternoon trip down the street to the DQ here in Hamilton. How are you, buddy?
I am well. I'm well. You know what? People are excited around here. I mean, what a start for the Bombers. I mean, you give up 13 points in 2 games, and we've sort of joked that that's been a big story so far, the lack of scoring, March. But, I mean, CFL offenses score 13 points in 2 minutes at times. And 2 games. Hey, let's just start off. What was your thought about the Bombers so far through 2?
I've loved Zach Collaros. I've never seen him so comfortable in my life. And I'm talking even through Hamilton when he was very clearly going to be the MOP moving forward. There's a lot of things that are nice about Winnipeg's offense. I think the offensive line is the heart and soul of the thing. We know that. They can just beat people up front. But outside of that, the thing that's really jumped out to me is Kenny Lawler and his progression. And it was really reinforced by what happened in the second game where in the first, you're going, okay, yeah, I expect him to put up some numbers and Darvin Adams isn't in, and you start to think about how good they might be once Darvin Adams is back. But now I'm looking at it and thinking, well, he's really the point of emphasis in every key situation. If it's fourth quarter and they want to move the football through the air, he's the guy. Everything runs through him. I was just crunching the numbers right now, actually, before I came on 2nd and 7+, which is the metric that I use to judge kind of where quarterbacks like to find their best guys when they got to pick up chunks of yardage. He has 43% of Collaros' targets right now on 2nd and 7+. That's the highest percentage of targets in that situation of any receiver for their team in the entire league. No quarterback locks in on one receiver more than Collaros does to Lawler on 2nd and 7+ right now. And that tells me the amount of trust that they already have developed between the two of them. So those are the things that I like right now is there's trust, there's experience in Collaros leading the offense, there's a big old line out in front, and that doesn't even talk about the defense and how many things are possible when you've got a front seven where Willie Jefferson's dinged or he's tired for a snap. That's fine. I'll take him out and put in 266-pound Jonathan Kongbo at defensive end. It's like, well, that's a nice luxury to have. And, well, I'm going to take out Kongbo. Let me put in Theodric Hansen. And, oh, look, he just got a quarterback pressure the one snap he played the entire game. Well, at linebacker, we might be a little bit thin. I think Jesse Briggs is going to have to play in that spot. Goes in, plays out of his mind, plays great on special teams like always, 7-year veteran out of McGill. So there's not a lot of weaknesses right now. I mean, if you want to really nitpick, you might say, well, I wonder how the kicking game is going to develop throughout the season. Are they wasting a roster spot by dressing Leggio and Crapina? Should they settle on one? I mean, that's nitpicking. There's teams that would love to have the issue of, we have two good kickers. Which one do we pick? There's a lot of teams with a lot bigger issues right now. So Winnipeg is sitting pretty, and I can't wait for Labor Day in the Banjo Bowl to look ahead and see Saskatchewan, Winnipeg going at it. I think is just going to be incredible theater.
Big question on the defensive side of the football was the DBs. I mean, the secondary, that was where the losses were. And I mean, man, Alford and Nichols so far through 2 games have shown that they were ready to go. And I guess that's what happens when you bring 30 DBs in and have a legit competition for a couple jobs. You hopefully find a couple guys, but certainly seems like Kyle Walters has done just that.
Yeah, and Walters, I think, is really good at talent evaluation, and Richie Hall's been around the block 15 times, so he knows what he's looking for and what he needs in his defense. And yeah, I think, to me, DeAndre Alford has been a revelation because I didn't necessarily expect this, but we know from being around the CFL that the way roster construction typically works is you draft offensive line, defensive line, you get a couple of skill position guys here and there, you got to have a franchise quarterback, you got to have a consistent kicking and punting game. If you're lucky, you get a spicy returner who can mix it up and take it to the house a couple of times a season. And then at the defensive backfield, it's usually a bit of a crapshoot where you bring in a bunch of names and you hope that some of them make plays. I mean, Hamilton, when I was covering them exclusively, was in that situation a couple of years ago. And what came out of that was Richard Leonard. Like that year, they were looking around and going, we don't really have a field halfback. We're not sure what we're going to do. Let's bring in 4 or 5 guys. Same thing, put them through the ringer. Gave them an opportunity to make some plays. Leonard made the most plays, got the job, went into the season, made a bunch of interceptions, signs a nice free agency deal in Calgary, and now he's going to be starting there expectedly for the next couple of years. So, yeah, I like that approach with the defensive backfield. I don't typically love the receiver, the competitions where you put in 6 guys and you say, well, let's see who comes out the other side, because that's a comfort thing of working with the quarterback. And that typically doesn't allow for as much smooth transition from player to player. But the defensive backfield, go ahead, put a bunch of guys in there and see who's willing to fly around and make some plays. And yeah, they've done a good job on the back end, but I'll also say again, that front 7 is so dominant getting to the quarterback. It makes the defensive backfield's job, I think, a lot easier because all of a sudden they're jumping routes and they're getting to play aggressive. And the only time I think that we've seen a shot over the top of the Winnipeg defense thus far was when Jeremiah Masoli on the very first drive of the year took that shot to Ackland down the left sideline and scored the only touchdown that Hamilton scored that whole game. So it's certainly all 3 levels of the defense working in combination with each other right now.
Hey, Marsh, speaking of the Ticats, I don't think anybody saw 0-2 to start the season. No. What's the mood around the team right now? And what are people saying in the Harbour?
Yeah, I haven't talked to a lot of people around the team, to be honest, but at this point, from what I've watched and the way that I've broken things down, I think that there's a couple of primary issues. And the biggest of them is that they're not the team that you all think that they are. And what I mean by that is not that, they're frauds or they don't have the same belief system or coaching. They have all that stuff. They're not the same human beings. Like, we all think of them as, 2019, they make it to the Grey Cup and best season ever in Ticats history and 15-3 and undefeated at home. And they're bringing everybody back. And then we get to 21 And everybody's going, yeah, they're going to have great continuity and they're going to make a lot of plays. And then you go, okay, well, now you've got Ted Laurent out. There's a backup in. Now you've got Dylan Wynn out. That's both of your starting defensive tackles. Jaguar Davis is operating on an end where now he's getting doubled as much as an offensive line possibly can because they don't have to worry about the big bodies inside being those veterans that know how to play in the CFL. Now let's go to free safety. Okay, Tunde Adeleke was a CFL All-Star. He's out. Dalvin Breaux, boundary corner, best in the CFL, retired. Just the idea of all of these pieces that you think are there, and the Ticats logo says, I remember them. They played really well, and they're not that same team. The other thing that I think is troublesome right now is the offensive line, just because they are inexperienced across there. Chris Van Zyl coming back helps, but he's still, I think, a little bit dinged up. Kay Okafor is struggling right now, but again, he played AC Leonard and Willie Jefferson in the first 2 weeks. I'm not going to call anybody out for struggling against those two guys because they'll make you look bad twice a week on Sunday. So I look at it as being offensive line, banged up on defense. And the one thing that really jumped out to me tracking the throws for Jeremiah Masoli, he has not completed a pass in the 17 yards that go from hash mark to hash mark in the middle of the field. Okay, this is the entire middle of the field. Anybody who's ever stood on a Canadian football field knows we got a massive amount of field between those hash marks. He has not completed a pass between the hash marks beyond 6 yards from the line of scrimmage. And he's very rarely attempted a throw down the middle of the field from hash to hash beyond 6 yards down the field. That doesn't make any sense.
Why? Any theory on why that would be? I mean, that's just a bizarre statistic through two CFL games.
Yeah, and to me, that was the one that jumped out as I'm watching it. And you go back and you watch some of the film to realize why. And I think it's the offensive line, because if you have a sound pocket, you can stand in there. And it's not like Masoli's going to be one of these 6'5", 6'6" monsters who stares over the top of the defense and takes hits. He's going to move around. He's always going to operate from outside of the pocket. They're rolling the pocket, I think, a little bit more than they have in previous years to try and protect him. When June Jones was in Hamilton, the plan was, let's go with a 7-man offensive line. Let's go with a tight end. Let's bring in Landon Rice as the 7th. Let's maximum protect 7 8-man protections. And June's whole idea was, we're just going to beat you with 3 receivers. Because if you're going to end up deciding to blitz with 8 of your guys, let's play a game of 3-on-3. And that's what June Jones loved to do with Hamilton. Now, Tommy Condell is approaching it. He wants to play more of a typical 5 wide, 6 wide, 4x2, quads to the field. He wants to do those normal things, but he's got a protection issue. So now he's trying to move the pocket and he's taking quicker throws, and that's not allowing for those Braylon Addison skinny posts, and not to mention he's been out with the knee injury, but Devere Posey's not in there either. Brandon Banks looks like he's dinged up a little bit, keeps grabbing his midsection after every play in the first couple of games. So they're not attacking the middle of the field. And again, if I'm a defensive coordinator, and I know that because they know way more than I do, they're watching way more film and tracking this stuff, they're saying, okay, well, why would we waste having a free safety in the middle of the field then? Because they're obviously not going to get the time to attack the middle of the field. If they're going to give us that, then let us attack them by either blitzing more, playing more of a cover 2 type shell look where you're just splitting the safeties, leaving the middle of the field open and allowing your defense to attack a little bit more. I mean, it's upper hand defenses right now. It really is, I think, against the Hamilton Tiger Cats for a variety of issues, but I just think that they're not getting the time to explore the middle of the field, and that's really limiting the offense through 2 games.
Marshall Ferguson, a Canadian football perspective, with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Marsh, I do want to talk about a very interesting piece you wrote in the first couple of weeks at CF Perspective. But before we do that, the other 2 0-2 teams, the 2 Alberta teams, Edmonton, I think you can certainly say Edmonton has worse losses so far this year and the way they've done it and the way they've looked than Calgary. However, Calgary is now missing Bo Levi Mitchell for what looks to be 6+ weeks. Where should the panic button be pressed harder? Calgary or Edmonton?
That's a great question. I mean, it's, for me, if Bo can come back, if he drinks lots of milk, as he says, and his bones heal up a little bit faster than we expect, then perhaps he'll be able to get them back just after Labor Day in 4 or 5 weeks, something like that. But you never know with a bone. Everybody heals differently, obviously. So I think the biggest concern right now is Edmonton, because in Calgary, I think we saw this coming a little bit, where we said, they don't have the Juwan Briskasons and the Eric Rogers and the DeVaris Daniels, and the Reggie Begelton's gone to the NFL with the Packers, and you start to see some of the retirements. I didn't think Neil Kazatati was a standout offensive lineman, but when he retires, you lose an integral piece. Shane Bergman was another one on the offensive line. When he retires, okay, you've got good depth with national guys that can step in. Justin Lawrence has done a good job early in the season. They've got an American over there at right tackle now. And you start to realize like they're piecing it together in the same way that I think Hamilton is piecing it together right now on the fly. In Edmonton, yes, they've had to go through a little bit of offensive line turnover and the odd player that's got a season-ending injury in training camp, but it hasn't been devastating. And we knew the type of team that they were going to come out as. We all knew, at least I thought, what Jamie Elizondo plus Trevor Harris plus Greg Ellingson meant. I'm not really good at math or science, but I do know that when you put those three variables together, good things happen offensively. And so far, it has not been great. I would say it has not been good. It's been pretty mediocre through and through. And again, just the things that jump out to you when you're going through the numbers and trying to do some research on this. Inside the score, or no, actually, it was 2nd and 7 plus was the same area I was looking at on the field. 2nd and 7, right now the Edmonton Elks, Hustler, have twice as many sacks given up as they do targets for Greg Ellingson.
Oh.
On 2nd and 7, they have, which again, Ellingson's a big play guy. He should be able to get you those chunks, and he should, just like Hamilton I was talking about, be able to work the middle of the field where he can pick up those yardages that you need to move the chain.
He's been automatic at times in his career with Trevor Harris.
Yes, and it's always over the middle of the field, and it's in Elizondo's offense, and it's with Harris delivering the football. So you start to think, okay, 2nd and 7, he's a go-to guy. Well, I understand. Mike Benavides is a smart defensive coordinator in Ottawa. He's not just going to give you whatever you want. He's going to double Ellingson. He's going to roll coverages towards Walker, whatever. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that through 2 games, now you've got on 2nd and 7, 4 sacks given up, and 2 total targets for Greg Ellingson, coming out of a game where he has 1 catch for 1 yard. And the only 2 times they've thrown vertically to him, one of them was incomplete just because it was slightly off. The other, Greg's running down the left hash, and it's double coverage. And the old rule as a quarterback, which I always violated, which is why I'm talking football now and not playing it, is that you never throw a vertical pass into a vertical defender. That was a rule that Steph Patacic, John Behe, the people that were great at McMaster taught me when I was learning the game. If you see a vertical defender, you don't throw vertically. Why? Because you're just throwing directly into where the guy is at, right? Vertical defender just means he's over the top. He's got deep coverage. And so Greg Ellingson is running down the left hash. He thinks he's got man coverage, but there's a safety over the top. Harris throws it. Ellingson shuts down. Like, he turns off the wheels, and he's like, I'm not going to go get that. Like, there's no chance for me to. Ellingson's not the guy that's going to throw Trevor Harris under the bus and flail his arms and freak out and throw a tablet on the sideline. He's just not that dude, which is a good thing for Edmonton because he could do that. But he's being put right now early in the season, I think, in situations that he's not going to have success. So we're all focused on the storyline and the stat line of Greg Ellingson. It's really about how the process of Elizondo calling the plays, Harris executing the plays, making the reads, is affecting Greg Ellingson's stat line. It's not that he's not getting open at times. It's just that he's not being put in smart situations to win on routes or being targeted when he has a good chance to win on those routes. So for me, it's Edmonton because they have the pieces. They seem like they're relatively healthy, unlike some of the other teams that are struggling, and yet the results still aren't there. Now, BC Place is a pretty fast track. Like, you go into that place against BC on a Thursday nighter, Ellingson could go for 8 catches and 120 yards and 2 touchdowns for all we know. But until I see that, I'm going to believe that they're struggling right now and they got to find some answers that they don't know quite yet.
Well, while you mentioned this game, I mean, let's touch on it quickly. The BC was, I think, a 4.5-point favorite. It's 3.5 now. I mean, it is 2 games, and you don't want to overreact too much. But this is, I mean, I would say it is as calling it must win is probably an exaggeration in week 3 of a 14-game season. But for Edmonton, going in a divisional matchup against BC that just beat Calgary, I would imagine that the level of urgency, it should be there for Edmonton because this is a huge game for them tonight. 0-3 with a loss to BC is going to be tough to come back from.
Yeah, no doubt. And I was watching, there's a clip on tsn.ca right now that people can check out that is the sit-down interviews that were done with Elizondo, Ellingson, and Harris. And I watched it a couple of hours ago, and the interviewer asked, are you concerned? Are you nervous? Do you feel the pressure? And every single one of them said, nope. Like, they just, by and large, no, this is not the time to be worried. This is the time for us to figure it out. And I think there's some truth to what Jamie Elizondo said in that clip, because he referenced the fact that you never know when a storm is going to hit your team, but the reality is every single year, every single team gets hit by a storm. It's just that some teams get hit in weeks 1 and 2, some get hit in 8, 9, some get hit in 14, 15, 16. So they believe that they have hit their storm early in the season. Now, the question is that storm self-created, or is that storm something that they won't be able to weather going forward here? And I was on a conference call earlier this week, and Matt Dunnigan was talking about the fact that people don't realize necessarily that haven't played professional football like Dunnigan did, battling through 14 seasons of pro ball, that professional football, everybody thinks it's about who can score the most and who hits the biggest and all the rest. He said it's about survival. And it's about whether or not you have the mental fortitude to realize that everything you think at the start of a season is going to be great, it always crashes and burns by week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5. There's always something catastrophically wrong unless you're blessed like your Kansas City Chiefs many times there, Hustler. But when I see the way that usually football seasons unfold, your right tackle tears an ACL. Your kicker breaks a leg. Your coach doesn't have a great understanding for what the offense actually needs to accomplish. Whatever the problem is, there's not been a team in the history of professional football that has started a season, won every game, gone all the way through, never had a single injury or a single issue, and gone, well, good for us, we won the championship, and then you just move on. So the idea that that's going to ever be reality is a fallacy. And I like that Dunnigan basically painted it as, if you are Edmonton right now, you have to be a little bit nervous, because you have to realize that going forward here, there's not going to be anybody to bail you out. Whatever the issues are you're dealing with, you got to attack them. You cannot be passive. And it reminds me as well of something Pinball Clemens used to say. I'd listened to him speak a couple of times at some different events in the GTA, which was you got to over-communicate. Because when human beings do not get the communication that they need, we innately backfill our minds with the worst possible outcome. And so, if you're talking to your buddy and you don't hear from him for 3 weeks, what do people do? Something must be wrong with John. I don't know. I haven't heard from him for a while. Well, why do we do that? Maybe John just doesn't want to talk to you, right? Like there's natural human, I think, psychology that plays into all of this. And so for Edmonton, I would love to see them in this game against BC way over communicating, like talking endlessly to each other on the sideline, on the field. Elizondo needs to be in Harris's head and on his ear every single time he comes off the field, progressing, figuring things out, because I think that's better than the alternative, which is let's go in, do the same thing we've done, and let's just hope that it's good enough, because it's been good enough in the past, but this is a different situation. And I think Edmonton, the sooner they realize that and attack the issues they're dealing with, they'll be much, much better off.
Hey, I got to quickly, before we get to your piece, I've got to ask you about Calgary. I mean, you've been as a Canadian quarterback, you've been a proponent to give these guys opportunities 2 weeks in a row. We thought we might see them, and it's not happening. What gives? What do you make of the decision and the depth chart with the Stamps?
I was sad. When I didn't see Michael O'Connor out there listed as that. And it makes you wonder why teams sometimes list not even a Canadian thing, but why do teams list a backup as a backup, and then when the backup gets a chance to start, they go, just kidding, still backup. It's like, well, why wasn't Jake Meyer the starting or the backup quarterback to Bo Levi Mitchell the first 2 weeks of the year? But yeah, I think Michael O'Connor has an excellent skill set. I think he would have played well going into the game on Friday against Montreal. My only concern for him, and just because I know Mike a little bit from being around him at the Combine and watching a lot of his UBC tape, and my head coach at McMaster, Steph Patacic, was his offensive coordinator at UBC, so I talked to him there a little bit. And the thing that everybody has come away from Mike with, and you can see it if you watch Bo Levi Mitchell's press conference from when he announced he had the broken leg, Mike doesn't have any emotion. Like, there is not a single, you can't tell whether or not he is just, seen the birth of his first child or committed a murder. You can't tell.
Flatliner.
He is so, and like you might say, well, at quarterback, that's fantastic, right? Never too high, never too low. That's great. My thing is, if my football team is 0-2, and the skill sets are even remotely similar, which I can't honestly tell you I know a damn thing about Jake Meyer. I'm excited to find out about him, but I haven't researched him. So I don't know what his true skill set is, but based on the assessment of their coaching staff, if they're remotely close and I'm 0-2, I don't think I'm putting the flatline guy into the huddle, because that is an equation for disaster where something goes wrong in the game. Inevitably, again, somebody's going to fumble, somebody's going to get hurt, someone's going to end up picking off Michael O'Connor. The next drive out, can you lead a huddle as a young Canadian quarterback who doesn't show any emotion for an 0-2 football team playing at home if the Boo Birds come out? That, I think, honestly, is a huge part of the decision here to maybe not go with him. Is his leadership and the way that he speaks in the huddle and the way he carries himself might not necessarily be at this point in a place where if you get down, they don't want to put him in that place. They don't want to make him vulnerable because I think they're interested in his long-term development. And this team right now in Calgary might not be the best spot to long-term develop somebody by starting them.
Marshall Ferguson, a Canadian football perspective, is with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I will, if you haven't already, if you were a CFL fan, you're definitely going to want to be hitting cfperspective.com on a regular basis. Always enjoy, a lot of the content, but especially your analysis, Marsh. And, the piece that you put together this week was sort of what everyone's been thinking. Where has the scoring gone in the first 2 weeks of the season? And it was an interesting perspective from you. I guess the question is, you asked it, are the defenses really ahead right now, or are the offenses behind? What gives? And when are we going to see some normal totals?
Yeah, so the thing that I have been thinking a lot about through the first 2 weeks, when I see the CFL and TSN guys on the panel and they're discussing the fact that defenses are ahead, and usually they are this time of year, I agree. Like, defenses are usually ahead. But this year, coming out of a pandemic, right, and dealing with quarantine and everything else that everybody's been going through in the CFL and the long training camps, I don't think the defenses are ahead. I think the offenses are behind. And I know that sounds a lot like semantics and me just, making up spitballing a take and trying to be wordy. What I mean by that is that when I see the way that the defenses are playing, yeah, they're flying around, they're making plays in the football, but it doesn't seem like they're playing at a significantly higher speed than the offenses. The offenses look slow. Like, quarterbacks, I think, across the league are missing more throws than they usually do. I think the timing is a little bit off with receivers. Bo Levi missed a bunch of time during training camp because of the groin injury that he had. Arbuckle missed time because of the hamstring. McLeod Bethel Thompson getting used to all these new receivers that he didn't have in 2019 in Toronto. Masoli and Evans battling it out, but there's no Addison, there's no Posey, there's Brandon Banks taking days here and there. You got guys coming in from all over the place that are younger, that are Lucky Whitehead transitioning to a full-time receiver in BC. Across the board, the whole league, with maybe the exception of Edmonton, again, 0-2, Montreal, nice start. You've got new faces in new places, and they're trying to figure each other out. And again, on defense, I think that you can put a bunch of guys in there and say, okay, here's what we're running. Let's communicate with each other. And it comes down to athleticism and competing in one-on-one situations and understanding concepts. Well, all of that stuff still applies to offense, but you also have to understand where the guy next to you is going at all times and reading his body language coming out of an outbreak and knowing where he likes to catch the football. Is he an overhand catcher, underhand down low, away from defenders? Does he know to settle down in zones? There's so many little intricate things that go into offensive football. I just think that they haven't figured it out as of yet. I think it's going to come. The amazing thing in terms of kind of the statistical or analytical breakdown that I did was I looked at the first 2 weeks of 2019 and the first 2 weeks of 2021. Yeah. And I looked at them both and I thought to myself, well, maybe it's the play calling. Like, maybe something's dramatically changed with the offenses. Maybe we're being more conservative. We're running the ball more. The percentage of plays that are called passes is exactly the same at 68.3%. These are different teams, different years, different rosters, different coaching staffs, both of them 68.3%. So it's the exact same game plan across the board through 2 weeks for all these different teams from across the country down to the decimal point. Then I moved on and thought, okay, well, it feels like when I'm watching the games back and tracking all the throws, quarterbacks are being really hesitant. So I started to look at how many throws are happening at or behind the line of scrimmage, and it's about 5% higher than the same time period in 2019. Okay, that tells me that offenses are a little scared to stretch the field. Then I extended that out to 10 yards and lower. And again, it's 5-6% lower. So by and large, I think what's happening right now is that offenses are getting their feet wet, getting their rhythm down, and until they're really comfortable, the names like Masoli are not going to stretch the middle of the field. You're not going to see Riley and Bo Levi comfortably pushing the ball down the field and taking those big shots, those explosive plays that typically win you Canadian Football League games. What we're seeing is these teams trying to figure it out. And what that means right now is they're taking the shorter, more conservative, smarter, higher efficiency throws. And once they actually get comfortable, get into a rhythm, and get more opportunity to understand the players they're working with, I think the offensive juices will start to flow. But I don't think that happens before Labor Day. So if you're taking the under, I think on a lot of these games, as people have been and everyone's been talking about, I'd feel pretty comfortable saying keep doing that until at least Labor Day through weeks 3 and 4, I would think.
Oh, it's just funny with some of these numbers. I mean, the Bomber Argo game hit the board at 41.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I jumped on the over on that. I just think that there'll be enough point. But the funny thing is over the course of 2 days, it's now at 45.5. So once you get to that number, I wouldn't be surprised if it kind of ends up in the middle somewhere. Marsh, this has been so much fun. I do have to quickly ask you before we go from the 3-down game to the 4-down game.
Mm-hmm.
You're a Bills guy, right?
I am, yes.
What's the feeling of the Mafia right now as things get going? I imagine it must be incredibly exciting after what happened last year with Josh Allen and the Bills.
Yes, but I'm also terrified because once every couple of years you read an article that says that the Bills are threatening New York state officials and saying, if you want a team, pay up. And I do believe at some point that's going to become an actual threat that's going to have real weight behind it. Whether or not that's this year, I'm not sure. I choose to be blind on that and just focus on the football. And yeah, we were so spoiled. You know, my son was born September 23rd of last year, and I have gone my entire life without watching the Buffalo Bills be a legitimate contender to go on a deep run through the playoffs. And I had my boy, and, you know, they're getting into the playoffs there at the end of the regular season, November, December. He's 3-4 months old, and, you know, we're basically watching Bills games together for the first time. And I just kept looking at him going, dude, you have no idea how good you have it right now. I'm like, all you know is Bills winning football games. I'm like, you got no idea what JP Lossman looked like. I'm like, this is an unholy thing that I've been through for 20 years, and I've enjoyed the hell out of it because it's one of those things where when you love a team growing up, it just sticks with you, and it doesn't matter how they do. You're always going to ride or die with them, and that's me with the Bills. But it's exciting to see them in the conversation of teams that will have a chance to compete. That's all Bills fans ever ask for is, do we have a chance to compete? Because for so long, the answer to that has been, no, what are you, stupid? Absolutely not. So having an opportunity is very, very exciting.
Well, I got to tell you, that division is really interesting. I mean, you know, we've got, you know, rookie quarterback in New York with Zach Wilson. That'll probably be a work in progress. I mean, a Dolphins roster, the top to bottom, might be better than the other teams, with the exception of that very key position we're waiting for Tua. And then there's the Pats. And I mean, that was a very strange season for New England last year. They have reloaded. You'd have to think that they'll be more competitive than they were last season. It's going to be a lot of fun, but a lot of Bills fans around here too. Vikings still the top team.
Yes.
But it's an exciting team, and just seeing what goes on around Bills games, pretty easy fan base to pull for. Marsh, thanks so much for doing this. Always great having you on the program. Just quickly plug where people can get more of your analysis, CF Perspective, and when are we going to see you calling the games?
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's good to be on with you and catch up and talk about all this stuff. Feels like the first 2 weeks have been a blur, and we only get 12 more games out of each team, unfortunately, until we start going into off-season mode, which is going to happen way too quickly. But yeah, I'm at TSN_Marsh on Twitter, and Instagram is where you can find me at CF Perspective, Canadian Football Perspective. We got 5 podcasts weekly. We're going all weekdays for you right now and pumping out all sorts of good stuff for you, analysis pieces and all that good stuff. And then in terms of games, I'm very excited that I am fake calling the Bombers game at TSN headquarters coming up this weekend. So I will be stuck in a closet somewhere getting some reps in on doing the TV call of Toronto, Winnipeg. And then we go live next week, BC at Ottawa on Saturday, August 28th, I think is where we are at for that one. And I'm really excited to just be a part of the team. And, you know, it's not about me and trying to be big TV guy and all the rest. It's just about sharing the evening with everybody and enjoying a Canadian Football League game. So I hope that I can do that and entertain people and give us all a great experience to enjoy the game we're so lucky to have back.
Oh, dude, you're going to do an amazing job. Cannot wait to see it. It's been a lot of fun with my good friend Dustin Nielsen doing some of the games, and to get you on as well. It's just awesome to see. Listen, have an awesome weekend. We'll catch up soon, and best of luck in the closet this weekend and next weekend with the real deal.
Yeah, it's going to feel a little different, I think, in the booth than it will in the closet, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Thank you, Hustler. I appreciate it.
Take care, dude. That's great. There he is, Marshall Ferguson, CF Perspective. Amazing site if you are a Canadian football fan, and be sure to give Marshall just some great analysis. A former player and a former quarterback, got a great mind for the game, especially the 3-down game. We're going to stay with some football. Don't forget Andrew Copp of the Winnipeg Jets coming up a little bit later on. And one of my favorite dudes to talk to about football, golf, and much more coming up in just a second. Do want to give a shout out to one of our newest sponsors, Paramount Services Limited. Paramount Services is a full facility maintenance company serving commercial HVAC, plumbing, electrical, handyman services to all of your favorite convenience stores and restaurants in Western Canada. And they're working 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and they've been doing it for almost 3 decades. If you or your business is looking for a one-stop shop for kitchen or cooler supplies, there's one spot to go, and that's Paramount. Anywhere in Western Canada, they'll help you out. Give them a call and ask for Kerry O'Brien, or you can find out more at their website at ParamountServicesLTD.com. And of course, they're always looking for qualified techs who specialize in HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and handiwork. Go to their website and submit a resume today. And of course, they are a member of the local Plumbers and Pipe Fitters Union. Also want to give a shout out to our friends at Not AutoCorp. I told you about that Tesla I got a ride in last. I want to go back and actually give one of those a spin. If you're thinking about a new vehicle, before you do anything, pick up the phone and talk to the experts at Not. Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Not team? They've got an incredible variety on the lot. They'll seek out the car that you want, and if you're in one now, they'll help you get maximum value for it through their consignment program. They'll service your vehicle. They'll detail it as well. Really, one place for all your automotive needs. It's Not AutoCorp, Waverly and McGillivray, and online at not.ca. And, it doesn't look like it's going to be patio weather this weekend, so you might want to take advantage of today and get out over to your local Boston Pizza, because summer is here. And the new summer menu is in effect, both on the patio, in the bar, and in the restaurant, and available for delivery or takeout. The new Burger Italiano, the Honey Dill Fried Chicken Sandwich, and some amazing summer cocktails, including the White Sangria Smash, the Peachy Mojito Royale, the Galaxy Fish Bowl, and the Bulldog Margarita Fish Bowl. Summer's here at Boston Pizza. Bring your appetite. Sunglasses optional. Well, it is about that time of year when myself and Geoff Fienberg will be discussing the upcoming NFL season, and of course some golf as well. But fantasy drafts are happening. We're making bets for the upcoming season, and there's a lot of excitement around fan bases of all 32 teams. So let's bring in the man himself. You know him from the Pat Mayo Experience, the Mayo Media Network, Odds Checker, and the Geoff Fienberg Show. The list keeps growing for my good friend Geoff Fienberg. What's going on, dude?
It's same shit, different day. Huh? Still the middle of heels together, and it would be the middle of September, buddy.
Well, that's where we're at, and just around the corner. I have to ask you, and we've had these conversations before, and I mean, I don't want to go cussed on you and start cursing things, but so far so good for the Chargers through training camp. I mean, there's been a lot of horrible stories in the past. I don't want to bring up the PTSD, but so far so good.
There hasn't, so far so good. Like, I would sign up for the sort of health they've had, but like the knickknacks have started to come, Huss. A lot of guys been watching practice the last couple days. An important team scrimmage versus San Francisco. Some guys aren't participating, so we'll see. Fingers crossed. Like, I need a couple more weeks of good health before I breathe on that note.
No, absolutely. Let's talk about Derwin James, because I think when we are talking about the AFC West, we'll talk about the quarterbacks first and foremost, but I think a healthy Derwin James could be one of the most impactful players in the division, frankly, and in the entire league. Where is he at right now, and what are the hopes of the Chargers for Derwin this season? First and foremost, staying healthy and staying in that lineup.
Yeah, I guess that would be number one. But beyond that, the hopes are pretty high. He's going to be the captain of the defense. He'll be the one doing all the communicating, Hustler. He'll be the guy that might be lined up at safety, might be lined up at linebacker, might be there right with the defensive end. So Derwin is the ultimate weapon, and hopefully he can stay healthy. And if he can, then the Chargers have a chance to be a real threat and the type of defense that are going to make quarterbacks just that split second extra have to wonder about what they're going to have to do when they call hut.
And of course, Justin Herbert was one of the great stories of last season. And, it was kind of funny. We were talking about Herbert last week, I guess, coming out of week one, where Mike Riley was supposed to start for the BC Lions, and the next thing you know, they're throwing a rookie out there. And in a lot of ways, it reminded me of week 2 against the Chiefs last year when Tyrod Taylor got that ill-advised shot, which punctured his lung. And, Justin Herbert famously goes into the huddle 15 seconds after finding out they need him there. And Hunter Henry asks him, "What the hell are you doing here?" For a guy that came in such a strange situation, when you look back at last season, I know you get a big smile on your face because it does seem like this team actually does have a quarterback that you can be excited about and can legitimately have you contend going forward into the next 10 years.
I've gotten, just out of sheer boredom, Hustler, I've watched a lot of the snaps over from last year. And the thing that I enjoy the most is just hearing how the commentators who are like watching him for the first time, be it Romo and Nance or Collinsworth and Michaels, what have you, like whether it was an A team, a B team, a C team, like of a crew, it was just like, yeah, wow. The guy's got it. That being said, I'm nervous. The ceiling is now being set pretty high. I, have reason to be excited, but I'm pessimistic in some ways as well with how it could play out. Hustler, I could see him maybe statistically not being as good, but actually being a better quarterback. I will say so much is being made of how beneficial a full proper offseason would be, a proper training camp, and those sorts of things for, say, Tua, because he didn't have that sort of success last year. But I would argue those things are also incredibly beneficial to a quarterback who had lots of success. Just being able to do that, have that sort of routine, albeit no preseason snaps.
Well, the preseason, at this point, you just want him to get into game number 1 and be feeling good and be ready to throw the ball like he did last year. I know there'll be some people, we'll move off the Chargers in a second. Fantasy-wise, Eckler, I imagine, will be a guy that, people want to have in their lineup, especially if they're doing PPR leagues. What about the receiving core? How are things shaping up, and who's going to be catching the balls? And you might, with the changeover at tight end, how will this offense maybe look different, and what should fantasy guys know about the Chargers?
Yeah, I will say it's rare for me to go into a year bullish on, say, like Mike Williams, which I was. Granted, Hustler, it seems like he's already dealing with an injury, so take that for what it's worth. Their 3rd round pick, wide receiver Josh Palmer, has kind of been the talk of camp from an offensive perspective, as well as rookie left tackle Rashawn Slater, who did play in that first game and had 21 snaps, didn't allow a single pressure. Josh Palmer had 6 receptions and has really taken the early mantle on the YR3. So for your deep dynasty or your deeper leagues, YR3 on the Chargers, is a competition a lot of people have a lot of interest in. And there were guys like Johnson and Guyton that rised up last year, but it does seem to be Josh Palmer in the early goings of camp, although I wouldn't start running to draft him just yet. Herbert didn't play in the game, and we do know he does like hitting those other guys over the top. So we will see. I got to tell you, the Charger for fantasy that I am most bullish on that will outperform its ADP, I got to admit, Huss, is that Chargers defense. They're going to go late. They can be very sneaky with a defensive-minded head coach. If Bosa and James play games together, I expect them to sort of have results similar to what it was a couple years ago in the very limited time those two actually played games together. So I'm excited about the defense, mainly in terms of something from a fantasy perspective that's going to outperform certainly where you got to draft it.
Geoff Fienberg is with us here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, talking a little NFL. We will get to a couple golf topics before we finish up the convo. But before we leave the AFC West, the Chiefs have been the team to beat. The Chargers we've just talked about as I believe, the next threat. And to be honest, I'm on the over for win totals on both of those clubs. And part of it is that I don't think much of Denver or the Raiders. Where are you on the other two teams in the AFC West?
I still fear Denver, Huss. I do like that roster. If they can get competent quarterback play, they should be something to deal with. I don't have many nice things to say about the Raiders. I don't. I think they have one of the worst head coaches in football on a, let's rank where they probably belong in 2021. Not, we all have great memories of Gruden, but it's a really awkward situation there. I'm not really high on them. There's a lot of turnover that went on there. They did a lot of weird things with their offensive line. I'm not. Yeah, I think the Raiders will be a bit of a pushover, but I'm not sold on Denver going away. They're always sneaking in such a good home field advantage that they win those home games and they can steal a nibble or two on the road. I expect them to be competitive. That's where I am on Denver.
I think Drew Lock stinks, full disclosure. Is Teddy Two Gloves going to be the guy in Denver, do you think? And when will that take place, if so?
I guess competent quarterback play sort of can change their outlook. So I would, like you, kind of expect it to happen sooner or later. But I could see why they want to give, Lock's Rocket another chance or two. But I'm with you. I don't think the answer is Drew Lock. If they're going to start Drew Lock, then all the power to them. They'll probably be more the team you expect them to be.
Geoff Fienberg with us. Let's talk about the AFC East for a minute. The Bills are the beast of the East now going into this season. We haven't been able to say that since the 90s. Where are you at on the rest of this division? The Dolphins with Tua at quarterback, the Jets with a rookie, and the Patriots, who for the first time in a long time spent quite a bit of money on free agents, including your pal Hunter Henry.
Yeah, one of the more intriguing divisions in all of football, Huss. I'll just put it out there. My favorite future of the NFL calendar right now, which I still believe is available, is I've got a pretty nice piece on Sean McDermott to win Coach of the Year at 18-1. With that thought, I'm going on the fact that he lost by a nose hair to Stefanski last year, a rookie head coach who, he fixed the Browns. Well, I believe if it's close, Sean McDermott's going to win any sort of coin toss for that award this coming year. He's almost going to get a body of work recognition for getting that award. If you believe the Bills are going to be great, I believe that's the best Bills future to make, looking at their AFC to win number, looking at their Josh Allen to win MVP number. So that's my favorite future in the entire league in terms of, a nice little payout. McDermott, Coach of the Year. After the Bills, I still think it's the Dolphins. Everyone, I have this bit that's kind of lived its own truth with Tua, but I expect him to improve. I don't expect it to be like a fart and a win. And that team, if I think Denver can get away with some median quarterback play, Miami certainly is just going to need some efficient QB play, Huss. That special teams, the defense, the coaching, that's a fantastic roster. As someone, if you're a Bills fan, a Jets fan, a Patriots fan, I would argue your best bet is seeing Tua be just good enough, as opposed to being really bad and then showing him the door and getting Deshaun Watson. That'll be your worst nightmare, I promise.
What happens in New England?
Like many people, I'm sitting on the fence here. There's no result there that would surprise me. Last year, people spoke about them like they were a 3 or 4 win team. They actually won 7 games, despite everything that went on there. Seems like it's a much better situation, that in terms of the roster, the COVID, guys returning. Belichick, he's going to coach him up. There's no doubt about that. I am more bullish on them than most, but if the floor does come there, I'm not shocked. But I don't dislike them one bit. I'm not picking on them at all. Week 1 versus Miami, That's a game that to me is as intriguing as any on that week 1 calendar.
Well, and that game could absolutely be the difference between a team making the playoffs and not making the playoffs. It's going to be that tight. How long of a season is it going to be for our pal Tim and the New York Jets? I like their coach.
Yeah, no, it's good to see. Walking that sideline with confidence. It seems like they may have made a good hire there. I don't know. The Jets fans are weird. There's a lot of doom and gloom that I guess comes with being a Jet fan. I don't know what to make of Tim. I sent him a video of Chris Sims like really talking up Zach Wilson, and his response to me is, "Woo, Aaron Rodgers 2.0." So it's just a little nugget of good news makes him go totally like lose his mind, Huss. So some people think they're going to be horrible. And some people are like, don't pick on the Jets. I'm not ready to pick on the Jets. I like the Jets. I like a lot of moves they made. Although that Carl Lawson getting carted today, I haven't seen an update on that. That's not a fun thing to read on the internet in the middle of August.
Let's turn over to the NFC for a second. Speaking of futures, the team that I think is given the best value right now is the WFT. The Washington football team, plus 170 to make the playoffs, plus 300 to win the NFC East. And if you really want to have a bit of a long shot sprinkle, they're 25-1 to win the NFC. This is a team that comes with as legit a defense as you'll find, I think, in the NFC. And now Fitzmagic gets in there and will give them, we've talked a lot about competent quarterbacking. If he can do that, what your thoughts on WFT and just that division overall? Because fading the Cowboys has been very lucrative to people if they've done that consistently over the last few years. They're always a favorite. They're always a big public team, and something always happens to blow it up.
I will say the schedule draw, like I've been thinking about week 1 versus WFT for the Chargers for months. It's not a fun draw. If you're a fan of any team, I don't think that's like the draw you wanted to get. Not that it's not a winnable game, but that's just not a game you wanted week 1. It's like road, starting a golf course on like a 530-yard like uphill par 4. Like, oh man, I could put up a number here. They could hurt a leg. Like they could do something that really F's my whole day / season sort of, way to start it, Huss. I think they are real in many regards. I only can't get over the fact that every single time Ryan Fitzpatrick has been brought in to be like your quarterback, it's never worked. It's never worked. He's anytime like the season starts with expectations in a positive way for Fitzpatrick, it's never worked. He only seems to get the most out of himself when it's this like backup hero magic role. So I don't know. I'm hoping for a few Fitz ducats in that game, and that's something you'll always got to fear. But yeah, if they can control the football, they're going to be bad news having to deal with them. I'd hate to have to play them twice.
Geoff, where is your money going in the NFC West? To me, this is maybe the most interesting division that you could make a pretty salient argument for all 4 teams to finish on top.
Yes, you certainly can. Stafford, one of the most intriguing stories in the entire league this year. It's almost like his career is going to be defined by the season, Hustler. There are people that can't wait to see him, what he'll do out of Detroit. On the flip side of that, this is a guy that had Calvin Johnson, the greatest receiver of my life. Okay? And he couldn't win a playoff game with Sue and a great defense. So, like, do we give him a free pass unfairly, maybe? We'll see. Arizona could light it up. I'm crazy enough to trust Pete Carroll in Seattle, though. I think that offense is going to be like insane this year. So if I got to pick a winner, I'm not betting it, but I'm going to pick Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson and those Seahawks.
Hey, you mentioned, it's funny, the one team we didn't mention is the Niners, who had a lot of books, are the actual favorite. Interesting quarterback battle there with Jimmy G. When does Trey Lance take over? Who are you high on amongst this rookie class of quarterbacks coming in?
Yeah, I mean, I'd hate to be the Jets, like having to have made the first pick after the obvious QB1. You know, it's like 4 guys go after, you've got to make that call. Like a lot of people, it's easy to like the Trey Lance team. Like you see all that raw stuff. The guy hasn't played football in he didn't even play last year. He's never run a 2-minute drill. I'm pouring a little cold water for there's people in my feed that want their MVP Trey Lance bets. So I'm seeing it's like crazy. So he's the one with the highest expectations. I'm going to be crazy enough and support my guy Tim and say Zach Wilson. Like, I think he's getting sort of picked on unfairly. He's in a really bad spot, but I like Zach Wilson, the way he slings that football, Huss. It really impresses me, and an ability to extend plays. I don't know what to make of Mac Jones. I don't know. I like Justin Fields as well, but Mac Jones, I don't want to draft guys that do that have that skill set. It's going to work for anyone. It would be Bill Belichick and
exactly.
The Patriots.
Yeah, if they can make it work, it will be them. And and how long Cam Newton is the guy, even if he is the guy in week 1, I think is still something we'll be following along. Who do you like in the NFC overall? I mean, if you're putting a sprinkle down on a team to win the NFC into the Super Bowl, where are you going?
Geez, I got no money on an NFC future right now, Hustler. It would probably be, I would sort of shoot for the moon with probably Seattle, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I think that's where I would shoot for the moon. Tampa's as scary as anything too. Returning all those players.
Everyone, every starter. I don't think that's ever happened before.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So I guess Tampa could be the easy choice. I don't want to go there. Seattle, I don't know. There was a lot of noise there this offseason. I think they're going to be great. I really do. I think Metcalf is going to be like unstoppable. He's my favorite receiver maybe in the league this year, in that tier in fantasy for sure.
No doubt about it. All right, we got to talk golf for a minute. You've had a great season, by the way. Congratulations. A lot of winners. A lot of our listeners making a point of tailing you have seen their accounts go up. Who are you on? What was the card looking like for the Northern Trust this week?
Yeah, it was heavy, Huss. This is the last real event of the year. And, after the majors, it's probably maybe the hardest and best. So I exposed myself pretty bigly for this one, Huss. Guys with pulses, Vic, Finau, Hideki, Rory had a frustrating morning, Berger, even par. It does look like it's incredibly windy there. Some dark clouds were moving in. Scoring seemed real tough this morning. Although, Harold Varner III, everyone's favorite guy, got her going. But Harris English, I've done a lot of content in the last week, Hustler. I didn't bet Harris English. It always feels like metrics show that there's great value on betting him. So I'm already regretting not. But shame on anybody who didn't have this guy as one of 6 freaking captains picks in any of their Ryder Cup preview contents last week. Even debating him, I felt was a little ridiculous in some ways.
Well, I mean, he has had a monster year. And speaking of Ryder Cup, how about our guy Kiz on the weekend? Now, thanks to Adam Scott for one of the most epic choke jobs of all time, a 4-footer to win the tournament and hands it over after playing the way he did. But Kiz is a guy, I'll tell you what, Kevin Kisner's a guy that I would want on my team in a match play event like the Ryder Cup. Is he going to be there?
No, Huss, I don't want to. I mean, if he has a great FedEx Cup, he can get there. I'm not here for that, Huss. I got to say it. I got to be honest. I think there's some big misconception about why Europe is successful, that they go off the board potentially and take team guys. No, they literally just take the 14 or 12. They literally just take the 12 best players like available to them. Literally. Now, the guys at the back end happen to have that great team skill set. But if I'm USA Golf, I think this young era of USA Golf, yes, Spieth has been there a bit and JT has been there a bit, but I think we all agree we're sort of in this new era of a torch that has fully been passed. And I think they have to be allowed to let American superiority, American exceptionalism rise to the top and overwhelm Europe with nothing but just sheer talent, especially on a course like Whistling Straits. Europe, they're just taking the best players. I think America should do the exact same. I don't think they should tinker. They won and Hazeltine, these young guys, they lost in France. They're 1-1. They're 1-1. Let them go be dominant. If they can't win this one at Whistling Straits when Europe's only got one player in the top 10 of the world, they could do whatever they want. They could start going to the Corn Ferry to pick guys, I guess. But you've got to give this new group of USA Golf. I think Phil will be on the team. Dustin is a bit of the old guard that you could argue is responsible for, I don't mean individually responsible, but has been a part of losing so many of the last 10, however they want to put it. But you can't put any of this on the other guys. They deserve a chance to be dominant. And that's the team I would send, a team that can dominate.
Well, I cannot wait for it coming up in just over a month at Whistling Straits.
Are you going?
Ryder Cup. I am waiting for the tickets to show up right now, my friend.
I'm thinking, who knows where we're going to be. I'd like to get there myself. I'd like to get there myself. I've given, I mean this relative to my little bubble, given up a lot in the last year. I'd like to treat myself. I'd like to get there. I'll
keep you. Once I have those things in my hand and I know they're there and we can get across the border, we'll have some speaks. Hey, listen, are you doing a show tonight?
Nope. Tomorrow afternoon, we'll sweat that cut. Again, the last cut of the season, Huss. Next week, only 70 guys. Then it's Eastlake with 30. And yeah, we're at football and Ryder Cup. So I'm excited. Golf season was exhausting. It's gotten exhausting, but the finish strong. I'm excited. Football's here. I'm fired up. Just that pure adrenaline this time of year puts into my soul.
Well, listen, it was great to have you back in the program. We'll have to do this hopefully on a regular basis throughout football season because I love these chats. You have a great one tonight, man. I'll look forward to the show tomorrow afternoon after we're done here.
All the best, Huss.
Right, and there he is, my guy, Geoff Fienberg at GFienberg17. Give him a follow, and just a great dude. Big Charger guy, amazing golf handicapper, and just a great friend. So lots of fun having him. Andrew Copp coming up in a few minutes here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. I want to give a big shout out to, I know Dallas. I saw Dallas in the chat. We, wished him a luck, getting married on the weekend. I know he's going out with his brother and some friends for a little golf before the big day. And having a few 1919s out on the course as well. Shout out to Little Brown Jug, making that great beer we love to talk about here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, the flagship brand, the 1919, and the Summer Variety Pack, which has been so popular, including the Summer Ale as well as the Hefeweizen. The Summer Lager, I should say, and the Hefeweizen. You can pick that up at Little Brown Jug at the local bottle shops, or they'll deliver it to you simply and easily. Same-day order by 4 p.m., same-day delivery in the city of Winnipeg, and you can do that easy and quick at littlebrownjug.ca. But if you are looking for a spot on the weekend, although it might be pouring rain, anytime you're thinking about a patio, pop downtown and check out the brewery on William Avenue. Great patio, and they've got entertainment as well. You can check the events page. But it's great to have Little Brown Jug on board with us here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. And if you haven't tried it, next time you're looking for a cold beer, try the good stuff, Little Brown Jug. Big shout out to our friends at Assiniboia Downs. I had one of the nearest, it was a heartbreaker last night. I was trying to go back-to-back with sort of long shot triactors, had the first two, and my third horse just got nipped at the bud. But man, it was fun. I was in a fantasy draft last night. I went back, watched the races on delay on the YouTube channel. Saved a lot of time doing it. Had a great night. It really is a fun way to kind of follow what's going on at Assiniboia Downs. But the good news is you don't need to do it on YouTube anymore because live racing is back, and so are fans. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday each week. Head on down to Assiniboia Downs with your proof of vaccination, 50% capacity in the lower level, as well as outside on the tarmac. And you can also hit the VLTs, open from 9 until 12:15 every day. And the terrace dining room is open as well, but you do need to make a reservation. You can find out more at asdowns.com or give them a call and get set up. The food's amazing, and there's no better view of what's going on at the track than in the terrace dining room. We'll get back to the duel at the Downs with our head-to-head picks between Remis and myself coming up on Monday's edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk. And we just talked a lot of golf with Geoff Fienberg. We mentioned the Northern Trust, first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs with the top 125. And there is our guy, HV3, Harold Varner III. He's at 5 under par. 4 under is Justin Thomas, Harris English, and John Rahm. They're all playing together, it looks like, and they're through 8 holes. So real nice start for that group. Cam Champ, Vic Hovland, Pat Cantlay, and Canadian Mackenzie Hughes all in at 3 under. Also my guy, Tony Finau. And we moved down a couple other Canadian flags on the leaderboard. Corey Connors is 1 under. He's tied for 29th. And the guy that probably needs the biggest weekend is Roger Sloan. Tough start for Roger. He's 3 over par, and Adam Hadwin is 4 over par. Of course, our golf report's brought to you by Breezy Bend. It was great to have Ken on board yesterday talking about the rounds that he's had out of Breezy, all the work they've done on the course coming together, may even be playable, some of the new work they've done by the end of the season. It certainly will be for next year. If you're thinking about a great spot for you and your family to make a golfing home, think about Breezy Bend. You can call Corey Johnson at the golf course to get on the waiting list or find out more at breezybend.ca. So we do have Andrew Copp coming up in a few minutes, but let's get Michael Remis back in here. Man, that was a great CFL conversation with Marshall Ferguson, and always fun to have Fienberg on, chopping it up, a little NFL preseason talk, and of course, the end of the golf season. A lot of thank yous in the chat for some of the picks that Fienberg made this year. Made a lot of our listeners some scratch, dude.
Yeah, I saw BA writing in chat that Fienberg has helped win some money. I've had other people text me, man, Fienberg really knows what he's doing when it comes to golf betting, and he's helped them win as well. So pretty incredible skill that he has at the golf.
Yes, well, speaking of golf, this is actually going to be a perfect segue into our next interview. We will get to our Coolbet lines in a couple of minutes, but it looks like we're about to welcome in Winnipeg Jet forward Andrew Copp into Winnipeg Sports Talk. And if my eyes don't deceive me, this is live from a golf cart somewhere. Andrew, what's going on? How are you doing? And how's the round?
Really good. We haven't gone off yet. Try to get this in before we teed off. So my partner's out there in the driving range right now getting ready. So hopefully this puts me in the right mental mindset.
Excellent. Well, listen, it's great to have you back on the program. Let's go back to last week. You got the deal done. 1 year with the Winnipeg Jets. It seemed to be a very different process than you went through a couple years ago, of course, going to arbitration. From your perspective, are you pleased with the deal, and how did it all come together?
Yeah, I think I'm happy. I guess I was originally looking for a 4 or 5 year deal, but once we added Schmitty and Dillon, there just wasn't a whole lot of cap room available. So I guess my alternative was one, to give me the unrestricted free agency next summer and to kind of bank on myself, basically having another good year and kind of continuing to trend upwards, and we'll see where the chips fall then. But really just as of right now, just concentrate on the team and getting back to Winnipeg and having a good chance of winning this year. I think we got a lot better this offseason. I think losing Appleton is gonna hurt for sure, but some of the additions we made are gonna help us a lot, and just excited to get back and get going.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew, you mentioned those additions on the blue line, and I think certainly the fan base and the media have been talking about it. And I think that, the team realizes that was an area that, the Winnipeg Jets were hoping to improve. From a player's perspective, I mean, you had to be happy hearing that those two guys are coming to town. But of course, with your personal situation, not having a contract yet, it did complicate things as far as what was available in the short term to get done with the Jets.
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's part of part of me coming back was the excitement about the team. Like I feel like I could have pushed for, a trade or something else to try and get the long-term deal and, something that I felt I've earned over the course of my career. But with the additions we made, I really wanted to come back and try and make a run here. So, like I said, really excited about, the additions on the back end. Obviously, Helly and Net is one of the best goalies in the league, if not the best, and we feel really confident in our forward group. I think we're, really looking forward to getting back and get everything going, like I'm saying.
What was the group chat with the fellas like when first Brendan Dillon was acquired and then Nate Schmidt the next day?
Well, I think the old guys are still in the team group chat, so I don't think it was getting too out of hand. But obviously, I know Schmidt a little bit from our work in the NHLPA together, and then Dylan texted me right when my deal kind of came through. So we I've had a little bit of conversation with both those guys. Know Schmidt pretty well. Have heard nothing but good things about Brendan Dillon. So I think we're excited to get them in the room and kind of see what our team ultimately shapes out to be.
It's funny. We had Schmidt on, Nate Schmidt on the program yesterday. He was joining us live from the Twins game. Credit to him for finding a great spot to do the interview. I mean, that guy,
That's what I heard. I checked with Brownie to make sure that this was okay from the golf course. He said Schmidt did it from the Twins game yesterday. So I'm in the clear.
Hey, listen, you're sounding great, and we appreciate you coming in. We got to work it around the tee time and all that. But I have to say, I had never interviewed Nate Schmidt before. We saw him and his the first visit with the media, I guess, here in Winnipeg after he was dealt. That guy is just an electric factory. I mean, he just has the most energy. I mean, obviously he's going to bring a lot to the club on the team, but from a teammate's perspective, are you excited to have a guy like that with that personality and the amount of fun he brings to the room?
Yeah, definitely. Especially, in the dog days, January, February, to have that guy that kind of that loosens you up, loosens up the room, brightens up your day a little bit. It is important to have those kind of guys. So, Schmidt's got a lot of energy, like you said, and he's kind of he's not really a loose cannon by any means. He's very focused and very dialed in, but he's definitely one that keeps the locker room light. And with some of the competitors that we have on our team that get ultra serious, I'll put myself in there. It's definitely nice to have that balance of personalities in the room, and I think that kind of what makes our room pretty dynamic and pretty special.
Andrew Copp of the Winnipeg Jets is with us. Andrew, back to your situation. You did mention that, at the outset, you were looking at, hoping to do, a longer term deal of 4 or 5 years. Is it safe to say that you're still open with that? I mean, you'll have the opportunity to talk to the Jets on January 1st. I mean, is that something that if things go well this season, you're still open to? Or the fact that you're already on this 1-year deal, that you have unrestricted free agency at the end? I mean, is that going to be something you think about come next July?
I don't think I'm going to try. I'm really going to try and not think about that as much as possible. I think, I just want to, I feel like I've gotten better every year in the NHL, and I want to do that again and, help the team win. So really going to try hard not to focus on that. Those chips will kind of fall throughout the year and throughout the next off season. But I'm just kind of worried about myself, worried about the team, and, trying to get this into a deep playoff run for us and have a good year and kind of just continue to get better.
Well, I mean, and I'm sure you paid attention to guys like Blake Coleman and Barclay Goodrow. I mean, some of these guys that, went and, got a pretty good opportunity to show what they can do for teams playing deep into the playoffs. And I mean, there could be nothing better for your personal situation as well as everybody else for this team to take that next step and be one of the final teams playing late into the spring and summer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at like Zach Hyman too, obviously. It's one of those guys that kind of was rewarded in free agency to know. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, try not to think about it too much, but you did see what happened this summer, and, guys like me were kind of rewarded. So hopefully, have another good year and then just kind of see where the chips fall. Like I said, just trying to concentrate on myself getting better at hockey on a day-to-day basis and trying to contribute to a lot of team success.
Last season was a really weird one for everybody playing, in front of empty buildings. And of course, the sweep of the Oilers and then the loss to the Montreal Canadiens. How's the offseason been for you? And did it take, was it different? I mean, obviously the timing of it was a little different, but did it feel different after finishing this season than a normal season earlier in your career?
Not too much, honestly. I mean, for me, it was nice to get back to the U.S. just to see friends and family. And quite frankly, the U.S. was a lot more open than Canada was. So I was able to do a little bit more and be a little bit more social. And I think that's just kind of been the calling card of the summer, is just to try and, spend a lot of time with family, see all your friends that you maybe haven't seen in a while. I've had a few weddings, so I got to kind of catch up with people there and be a part of, some of my closest friends' special days. So it feels like everything's just kind of jam packed, but, training and hockey is still, the forefront of the priorities. And I just got back from Toronto, actually skating with Shife and Wheels with Adam Oates. So, I feel like it's been a little bit different in terms of trying to fit things in, but no different in terms of hockey being the priority and trying to just work on my game on a day-to-day basis.
Hey, if you could, I'd love to know. Tell us about hooking up with your teammates Shifley and Wheeler there in Toronto, and the sort of things that you guys are getting into in the off season to prepare yourself for an exciting season coming up.
Well, I can't give away too many secrets, but we were together the last 3 or 4 days skating with Adam and just kind of trying to work on some things that maybe are weaknesses for one guy or strengths for another, and just trying to kind of get better at hockey at the end of the day. It's just to make sure that I'm doing the right things on and off the ice, making sure that I'm, working on things that, I need to improve upon and still trying to improve my strengths. So, I'm not going to give you too many details on what exactly we were working on, but it was definitely nice to spend a few days with those guys and get, lunches and dinners and be on the ice together and all that. So we're definitely looking forward to getting together in a month's time.
Andrew, now that your contract is done, Pionk is signed, Logan Stanley signed, and Dylan and Schmidt are there. You're talking with the guys. I mean, how would you characterize the anticipation or the excitement within the Jet dressing room of what this team might be capable of next season?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of that, but I don't think we're trying to, put too much pressure on ourselves at the same time. We're excited to get back together. We're excited to see what our team looks like. But we're not going to win the Stanley Cup next month. So we know it's going to be a long and, hard process. And, after playing only 55 next year, getting back to 82 games, it's a long season. So we're just excited to get back together and kind of get things rolling. But like I said, we know we're not going to win the Stanley Cup next month. So, it's going to be a process, but we're looking forward to starting it off.
I imagine another thing that you're probably quite looking forward to is getting back out onto the rink in Winnipeg in a building full of fans, as opposed to the the atmosphere you played in last year.
Yeah, definitely. I think you definitely have some chills around like the first, maybe even just the first preseason game, honestly, where I'm sure the fans will be there early and be loud, and we're just really looking forward to getting back to a sense of normalcy and the atmosphere in the rink that is just so hard to replace. So we're really looking forward to having the fans back in the building, and makes hockey just that much better.
Hey, when you're back at home in the summer, I mean, do you do any skating and training back at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor? And maybe just a comment about that hockey program, which has always been a powerhouse. But I mean, when it comes to the draft, I mean, #1 overall, number of top 5 guys. I mean, it seems like it's really turned into the factory when it comes to NCAA hockey right now.
Yeah, I mean, I skate a little bit there. I've been more at the U.S. program actually the past little bit, skating with kind of the Hughes brothers there. Some of the other guys like Kyle Connor, Hellebuck, but that Beniers kid. So there's a lot of good players in the area, but obviously the draft success that Michigan just had is unprecedented. So we're really looking forward to seeing how they do this year and kind of seeing the progress of all those guys towards the next step.
I have to ask you about fantasy football. Is the league set right now? Who's the commissioner, and what's going on with the team's league for the upcoming season?
Yeah, I'm the commissioner. I got to get on that, actually. I've been bugged by a couple of guys the last little bit about when's the draft. So kind of been on the road a lot the past probably week, 10 days. So I got to put that draft together here in the next few days and get that rolling, because that's a fun time of year for sure.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. What are the thoughts? I mean, I know you're always a big Brady guy. You're from Michigan. I mean, who's your team right now, and how are you feeling about the upcoming season?
Well, the team is always the Lions, which come playoff time, I have to pick a new team every year. But I'll say, I mean, I like Brady a lot. So I think when Tampa's in the playoffs, I'd be rooting for them too. And my parents pretty much live in Florida in the wintertime now. So I guess that's kind of an easy one for me based on being a little bit of a Florida family now. And on top of that, obviously the Brady connection.
Hey, before we go, who won the league last year? Who's the defending champ? Who will be entering the draft room with the belt?
Honestly, I'm not exactly, I don't remember who won last year. Let me look that up for you real quick.
These are the important things we need to get to here on Winnipeg Sports Talk with Andrew Copp. Oh, that may have actually ended the interview when he went to check things out on the bit. Well, we'll see if he comes back and does it. Really fun chat, though, with Andrew as he gets ready to tee off, taking a little bit of time for us here in Winnipeg. Oh, he's back. Yeah, I figured that might happen if you were checking it out. What does the historical records of the Jets Fantasy League have for us, Andrew? Oh, damn, we lost him. Well, we'll see whether we can get it back again. Probably pins and needles for everyone wondering. We'll get the information at some point. We'll follow that when we talk to the guys throughout the year here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. But a great stuff with Andrew Copp. Obviously looking forward to getting back at it with the Winnipeg Jets, and a really interesting situation for him personally in that the one-year deal maybe wasn't the first choice, but it does afford him an incredible opportunity next summer as an unrestricted free agent. And he will certainly be a huge, huge part of this Winnipeg Jets team going into next year. And as we talked about, I mean, don't be holding your breath on any sort of trade for Andrew Copp, because if that happens, it's a very bad sign for the Winnipeg Jets, because I think this deal, getting him signed for one more year and seeing what happens after that, is a commitment that, you know, they want all hands on deck to see what this group can do together for a full season with the additions on the blue line. So big thanks to Andrew Copp, Commissioner Copp, for joining us today on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Remo, man, we've had some guys join us from some interesting locales. Copp sounded great, though, doing it from the golf cart. And then, of course, yesterday was Nate Schmidt live from Target Field watching the Twins.
Yeah, he's rocking the AirPods there. Sounded great. So technology. I think Appleton kind of looked like he was like post golf too or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
But we do appreciate all these guys like making an incredible effort to join us from wherever they may be. So awesome. Too bad we couldn't get like a live shot of him teeing off or something. That'd be pretty funny.
Yeah. No doubt. Well, hey, you know, we want to definitely thank Scott Brown and the guys at the Winnipeg Jets for making that happen. They've been very kind to us, and I know the feedback's been great with all the players. And, you know, genuinely, there is so much excitement about this hockey team going into the upcoming year. And I think that would be the case anyways, with the fact that fans weren't allowed to be at games for the last year plus. But when you think about the talent that the Jets already had, and you know, the win over Edmonton was something that I think, you know, many people, despite what happened against the Montreal Canadiens, a lot of Jet fans will hold on to that one for a while, considering the star-crossed history of the Jets going up against the Oilers in the playoffs before. But then with the additions in the offseason, you know, it has really cranked up the anticipation. Certainly, I hope it's helping fill the building when it comes to ticket sales for the upcoming year. But the bottom line is that, you know, when this team hits the ice, even for the preseason, but for that home opener against the Ducks in October, the place will be full. It'll be loud. It'll be fully vaccinated, Remis. And there will be hopes, excitement, and expectations, I think, unlike maybe that we've seen since the run to the finals in 2018.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I heard Frank. I was watching Frank Saravalli's Instagram Live with him and Kevin Weeks, and these guys were just gushing over the Jets. They couldn't believe.
Did Weeks do any more Maurice impersonations?
No,
Did he talk about it?
That's why I was watching. No, he didn't talk about that. He just talked about how much he loved Brendan Dillon and how they're fired up about him. Great, you know, how he's a great teammate, but also a great player. And the additions they've made. So I like the Jets. You were telling me before the show, Huss, that if you really like the Jets and don't want to get in on them, now is the time, because their odds for the Cup are quite favorable if you
know what? Let's
think that
get
they
to
have a
this
chance.
right. Let's get to right before we get to our daily lines for the CFL. I was looking at this last night at Coolbet.com. And I went on OddsShark first, and OddsShark is a great site just to kind of compare odds. I mean, it's when you're doing something like a futures bet, you may as well make it and get the best number that you can. And the Jets on most books anywhere from 33 to 1 to win the Cup to 40 to 1 to win the Cup. So, I mean, still a pretty significant, long shot, which is always fun if you're going to put $20 on it and down. The Coolbet number, though, it blew me away considering what we've seen in so many other spots. The Jets line to win the Cup is 50 to 1.
How are they the same as Vancouver? Who's making these? That's a mistake.
We've always talked about it. The Jets are always somewhat overlooked because our fan base is so small. And to be frank, a lot of people don't pay very much attention to the Winnipeg Jets until they do something that warrants it. So all I'm saying is if you're one of those people that likes to, throw $10 on your team to win the Cup, or you think that the Jets have done enough that they're a legitimate contender, the number you see right now at Coolbet, 50 to 1, is the best number you'll be seeing, I think, anywhere. And I would imagine that will probably go down as we get closer to training camp when more people sort of look at these lines and realize, wait a second, that doesn't really seem to make sense.
How are they the same as Calgary and Vancouver and Chicago? They're better than those teams. Come on. Calgary was awful last year. And they didn't. So. And we all thought Calgary was gonna make some changes, and they didn't change anything. They lost Giordano, and I don't think they added. They added the big free agent from
Blake Coleman.
Blake Coleman, yeah. So, but how I think the Jets are better than those teams. I would. As
I like to say, 50 to 1, worth the sprinkle, and it'll be fun.
Why not?
Fun to follow it throughout.
$5.
So
who cares? How much do you need? Throw 20.
I got in there last night on it. So at 50 to 1, and if you have not bet at Coolbet before, you can use promo code WST. It'll give you a 100% bonus up to $200 on your first deposit. So you can put a little touch on the Jets if you want to win the Cup. You can also get in on the Canadian Football League lines. And we sort of mentioned there was some pretty significant line movement over the course of the week. And a big part of that has been on the Bomber-Argonaut game. This game opened up with Bombers 5-point favorites, and the total in the game was an abnormally low 41.5. Well, it seems like there's been some money coming in on the Argos. Bombers now just 3.5-point favorites, and the total has gone up 4 to 45.5. So hopefully you watched the lock shop yesterday if you were getting on the over and got on at that point when it had just moved from 41.5 to 42. But there's been a big movement. A big movement as well in this Elks-Lions game. Earlier, it was a 4-point spread in favor of BC. Now it's 3, and I think 45.5 early on. Now it's gone up to 48. Just when we saw the numbers as low as they were, Remis, on Monday, you had to think that they'd be going up somewhat. I will say, though, I'm surprised that of all games, the Bomber-Argo game is the one that's rocketed up. I mean, a 4-point movement on a spread is quite significant.
Yeah, and another big movement spread was the Alouettes, who I think opened as like a 1-point favorite or even an underdog, and are now 5-point favorites. So we said earlier in the week, I think I bet it on the show, said, hey, I mean, this is not correct here, especially we knew Bo Levi was injured. And now they're
called it plus money on Monday. I think we put it in, and I got it yesterday at minus 115 on the money line. The money line is now minus 227 for the Montreal Alouettes. So hopefully you got in on that early. And that's one of the fun things about doing a daily show. We can sort of look at these odds when they come out, and for people that do want to get on it, try and get a much better number before they change and sort of bottom out.
This is just math, guys. This is gambling arbitrage, and we were right. We guessed right. I don't think that was a guess. That was just a wise call from we do watch the games as well as look at the stat sheets. I am looking forward to lock tonight, 9:00. We do have that late game, BC Edmonton. I'm kind of curious, which Mike Riley are we gonna get? The one who can throw the ball like last game. It seems like his arm is better. And Edmonton, I mean, can they get into the end zone here? They've been really disappointing. So I kind of like BC here, -3 at home.
I'm looking forward to the game tonight as well. And oh, by the way, I'm just checking out. There is one spot left in the DraftKings contest.
Oh, no, it just filled.
Oh, did it?
It filled during the Marshall thing, so it's full.
Okay. I must have had this.
You got to hit refresh.
good luck to everybody that is in. I'll get my lineup done at some point before kickoff tonight. And then tomorrow on the program, we will definitely talk about Bombers and Argos from both sides of the football. And you know what else I'm really looking forward to, Reem? I mean, it's been great having the Jet guys join us today, kind of on the this week on the off season, because there really hasn't been much hockey news per se. There has been lots going on in the National Football League, and it is about time for the return of Hacksaw and the NFL Notebook tomorrow. I cannot wait for a trip around NFL training camps with the latest from the legend himself, the great Lee Hacksaw Hamilton.
He sent me his notes, so we'll have his full notebook. I'm excited for Hacksaw. It's a good time to bring it out here before NFL preseason. We got our fantasy drafts. I know he's in San Diego too. Maybe we can touch on little Padres because that I believe the NL West with the Dodgers and Padres and Giants are having a good season. Some playoff races. I know we're focused on the Blue Jays here.
The Giants have been in first place for most of the year and are still 3 games up on the Dodgers and 12 games up on the Padres. And so they're 78 and 43. And I think everyone was predicting this would be a 2-horse race between the Dodgers and Padres with all the money that they spent on the staffs. So, I mean, this San Francisco year has been, frankly, incredible, and they have not let up. Still 8-2 in their last 10 games, staying ahead of the Dodgers. Well, the Dodgers have been on a tear at 9-1. Padres not playing very well lately. They are 3-7 in their last 10. But still 11 games above 500 and looking good for a wild card spot, although it could definitely be tight going into the race. Tough one for the Jays yesterday. That's a real lost opportunity going into DC, Remo, and dropping a couple L's to the lowly Nats, who traded away pretty much their entire team except for Juan Soto.
Yes, that is very disappointing. You have to win. If you want to get back in this race, you got to win these games. And when you're playing against, the Nationals, again, who've traded so many dudes, I think it's very disappointing. So the Jays, I can pull up their thing right now. Here we are. What are they looking at here? What are they? 10 games back and 4 games back of the wild card. So they're struggling. Their run differential says that they should be way higher. I know Boston is kind of fading, but they're going to have to play very high winning percentage ball here at the end if they want to get there. But 4 games, season goes until like October 3rd, I think. So there's definitely time if they get on a heater. But George Springer going down, dropping games to the Nationals, who are, where are they in the standings? At bottom, not ideal.
They're right down there with the Marlins, and that's not a good neighborhood to be in. Just looking, who was it? Where was this comment that I just saw? Leslie Mitchnuck. What up, Leslie? Jesse Granger article on The Athletic has Jets at 40-1. That's plus 4,000 to win the Cup, which is actually worse than the odds he quotes from 719 of 35-1. People sort of just forgot about the Winnipeg Jets in the offseason and probably haven't been paying attention. So as I said, I'm just throwing that out there. If you are a person that likes to put a little small bet on the Jets to win the Cup, this is the time to do it because you're not going to get 50-1 anywhere else. And shout out to Coolbet for always having the best lines. Hey, Lightman, what's going on? Best sports show on the net. We appreciate it. I haven't even said this, but if you do like the show, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Always helps us. And make sure you're subscribed if you're not here with us each and every day. Reno, a couple of other things. Just while we're talking baseball, we've got to bring up Ohtani. Ohtani last night hit his 40th home run of the year while pitching 8 innings of, I believe, 1-run ball. What this man is doing this year is unprecedented. I believe Babe Ruth's largest home run total ever when he was pitching was 34. To be leading the league and one of the top pitchers in the AL is something that may never be done again. Although I think he's sort of, such a trailblazer that, individuals will try and do it going forward. But the amazing season for Vladdy Guerrero, MVP worthy in almost any other year, but not in a year where Shohei Ohtani is completely rewriting the book on what's possible for a Major League Baseball pitcher at the plate.
Yeah, it's incredible. So, runaway MVP. We're not going to hear, well, his team didn't make the playoffs. So you can't be an MVP. I mean, how good are you if your team isn't in the playoffs, Huss? But the Angels, I don't know what it is about them. They got the 2 generational players, and Mike Trout been the best player in baseball for the last 8 years. Ohtani, once in maybe 2 or 3 lifetime player. Best, leading the league in homers and pitching, being a top pitcher. And there they are, 10 games out of first and 7.5 game of the wild card. It's really disappointing to have that talent and not be able to put a team together. So
no doubt about it. Hey, just one other Ohtani note, and this had nothing to do with Ohtani, but an absolutely idiotic thing done by former Tiger great Jack Morris, who was a broadcaster, and I say was because I'm not sure whether he's coming back into the booth after he essentially mocked an Asian accent when asked about what he would do if he was going up against Ohtani. It was tone deaf. It was stupid. It was, mind-boggling to have that happen to someone in the media in 2021. And Bally Sports Detroit has just put out that they're extremely disappointed with the remarks that Jack Morris made at the Tigers game. He's been suspended indefinitely from Tigers broadcasts and will be undergoing bias training to educate him on the impact of his comments and how he can be a positive influence in a diverse community. We have a zero-tolerance policy for bias or discrimination and deeply apologize for his insensitive remark. There was another rebuke from the Detroit Tigers as well. And you wonder, and I didn't chuckle about this because, it's not funny. It was stupid. But this, of course, is, Remis, the 1-year anniversary of the infamous Tom Brenneman apology for, I believe he made some homophobic slurs that were caught on a hot mic, and in the middle of his apology, Nick Castellanos went yard against the Royals, and it ended up being the most awkward apology probably in the history of sports broadcasting.
Yeah, the Jack Morris thing, you can't say that.
What an idiot.
It was very unnecessary, insensitive, it was so dumb, So, yeah, they made the right call suspending him indefinitely. And the Tom Brenneman one, he made a ridiculous comment as well that you should never be saying. And for a home run to happen during his apology, really took it to the next level. And I think he's been broadcasting high school games. I think he went
out of Puerto Rico or the Dominican afterwards.
So it was... Yeah, dumb guys being really.
I apologize. I'm a man of faith. Yeah. And Castellano drives a deep ball into left field, and that's a home run as he ran the bases. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be back in this booth again. I can do it. I watched it again a couple times today. Again, DGC folks, don't get canceled, and don't be an idiot when it comes down to it. And I'll just say one thing on the Jack Morris thing. And I think as a culture and a society, we've gone late years ahead when it comes to tolerance and accepting diversity and all that. But I think what happened there is a very important reminder of something that we've been reminded through, I think, the entire pandemic of anti-Asian racism and just how casual I think it has been and tolerated a lot more than, racism against other, whether it be people of color or women or people on sexual orientation. So unfortunately, you have to have some of these examples to shine a light on it right now. But anyways, I'm not sure what happens to Jack Morris going forward, but I think it's an important lesson for a lot of people that something that you may have done in the past that you heard, that you thought was harmless, maybe isn't harmless or isn't harmless. I'll say that to a lot of other people. So best to think before you speak, as your parents told you when you were growing up. What else do we need to hit before the end of the program?
I wanted to hit one thing. This, okay, you can hit your gambling. This happened during the show, so we kind of haven't really touched on this. That a couple weeks ago, Jack Eichel, he's been in the news a lot. Everyone thinks he's going to get traded. We talked about the neck thing. Well, he signed up for Twitter, and he is at Jack Eichel. So when he signed up, I think it was the team said, no, this isn't Jack Eichel's Twitter. Someone said that it wasn't, and here, I'll pull up the tweet. And then he came out and said, actually... confirmed, this is not a fake account. Source being me, Jack Eichel. So that was August 6th. So he hasn't sent any tweets since that. And so then today, an hour ago, he sent this tweet. I don't know, what emoji is that? Like, oh, it says unamused face emoji. That's all Jack Eichel said 1:29 p.m., so like an hour and a half ago. I don't know.
A lot of action, a lot of likes, a lot of quote tweets.
Yeah. What do you make
from that? A lot of
that?
RTs. Well, he's pissed off that he hasn't been traded yet, and he's getting impatient, and he's waiting, and he wants to have his surgery, and he wants to get back on the ice, and it's all at a complete standstill right now. This is a disastrous situation. It's a disaster for Jack. It's a disaster for the Buffalo Sabres. It's not good for the National Hockey League. There's really no winners right now in this, and we'll get one of the insiders on in the next couple of weeks as the guys get off holidays and we get closer to the beginning of training camps. I really wonder how long this standstill continues, Reem, because I think Buffalo knows that they're going to be terrible this year. If they don't have to pay Jack Eichel, I'm sure they'd be fine with that. Now, they do if he is injured, but I'm sure that there's probably a lot of lawyering up right now between the team, agents, getting people from the league and the PA involved in right now because, nothing's happening. He's not having the surgery that he wants. He's not having the surgery the team wants, and he's still on the off the ice, and it's going to be a number of months before, regardless of what happens, before he's able to get back on the ice. And what that means for his trade value, well, it's obviously really diminished it, and that's why Buffalo hasn't made a trade up until this point. And who knows, we might be getting some more angry or unamused emojis coming out of @JackEichel verified account going forward after today.
Yeah, if only he had Alan Walsh as his agent, then he wouldn't have to get his own Twitter account, and he would just have Alan Walsh be like the Paul Heyman of NHL agents. Be like, my client, Jack Eichel, demands a trade, is not amused at what is going on. And so we were talking, like, if you're trading for Jack Eichel, like, what are you even giving up for him? I think we talked about this yesterday. Didn't we talk about this yesterday with Ken? Someone we talked about it with?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who said, like, and it's not going to be, your standard player, prospect pick. It was Gary. Yeah, it was Gary. Thank you. It's not going to be. And I agree. Like, what would you trade for him? And I saw, like, someone put a poll. It was like, would you trade Scheifele for Jack Eichel? I was like, no. I mean, this guy's hurt. You don't know what his deal is. You don't know if he needs surgery, how long he's going to be out for. So I probably wouldn't trade for him, even if you are one of those teams with a lot of cap space, like Vegas, who we speculated on, or the Rangers, who you speculated on, or Minnesota, who's now like bought out those two guys for nothing. So we will wait and see.
Yeah, no doubt. One other hockey note, and Wish has an interesting piece in ESPN on the jersey ads, the details of it, what they'll be able to do. There's going to be one ad per jersey, the left-right shoulders or the left-right chest. Alcohol, tobacco, weed, and porno sponsors are banned. But gambling ads will be allowed. And man, think of how far we've come, Remis. I mean, there was a time even 5 years ago where you couldn't mention anything to do with betting amongst the National Hockey League. Now it's getting legalized, across North America, and as expected, could be a major source of revenue going forward, including from an advertising perspective. Speculation that some of these jersey deals could actually be more lucrative for teams than the naming rights deals of their buildings.
Yeah, great story by Greg Wyshynski. I think I retweeted it from my own account. The link to my account is in the description of this video. But I think it's good for the teams, to be honest, like, as much as it sucks. I mean, they lost a lot they didn't play in front of fans last year, so they need to make up this revenue. It basically said the pandemic accelerated this, and they've been talking about it for a while. And I mean, if you want to buy a jersey, you'll be able to buy one without a logo. But if you're a big jersey guy and you want to wear the one the players wear, I think you'll have that option too. If you want to rep, whatever brand your thing is. So we'll see how this goes. I'm curious, what teams are, if all the teams are going to take advantage or some teams won't. And I'm sure the big, national teams like the Rangers or, Canadiens, Leafs, the big money teams will be getting a nice bump. I think it was the Pittsburgh executive was quoted saying, yeah, this is going to be huge for us, get an extra like $6 million. And I guess we'll wait and see what it is. I mean, I think the common thing would be to go to the arena naming rights. Maybe they want to get that too. We'll see. But yes, No.
Joe from Winnipeg. Yeah, I mean, as far as we know, Trojan condoms, all good. I mean, if they want to step up and get on the jersey of one of the NHL teams, I don't believe that is banned. No alcohol, no tobacco, no weed, no porn. I mean, that basically is the 4 categories that they don't want on their jerseys. There might be a way for teams to take money from those companies otherwise. Well, there certainly is, certainly from the alcohol side of things. They're pouring a lot of beers in these buildings. But as far as the actual jersey, they won't go that way. And I'm fascinated to see kind of what the, what player, especially considering that gambling companies are allowed to be involved in the connection for it, especially with the team for fans that want to bet on that team. Will be very interesting to see how many of those deals in year one, Remis, are in fact from that industry, as opposed to some of the other big names we know that are very active in general sports sponsorships.
Oh, it's going to be like Bell on like half the Canadian team's jerseys, Rogers. I'll tell you, Bell, Rogers, Scotiabank. It won't be any like cool companies like, I don't know, DQ or Not Autocorp.
Speaking of which, Nick's in the chat right now. Nick's saying, "What's up? Hey, ordering some new uniforms. Can I get you to a visor to wear in the air? Like maybe just the full DQ uniform. It'll look like I just came from making blizzards over at St. Anne's or Polo Park, right into Winnipeg Sports Talk. We definitely love that. We'll definitely talk with. I
said, send me a DM, Nick. I don't want to talk. You can have a personal conversation off stream. We don't need to have it right now.
Shout out to our great sponsor, Nick and Nikki. There may be a blizzard in the future, maybe tonight. But get him in. I don't think the weather's going to be very nice. We're finally getting this rain everyone's been hoping for, and it looks like it's going to be a ton coming up tomorrow into Saturday. Hopefully that doesn't scuttle the golf plans for the weekend. I know a lot of people planning on getting out there. We'll see what things look like tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow's going to be a great show. We will get you ready for the Bombers and Argonauts. We'll talk about tonight's game in the Canadian Football League. Our pal Dustin Nielsen, he'll be calling that one tonight on TSN. And the return of Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, Hacksaw's Notebook, coming up as well today. So up tomorrow in the program. So should be a great way to finish up a busy week on Winnipeg Sports Talk heading into the weekend. While Nick's here, I'll thank him first. Shout out to Nick and Nikki DQ and the rest of our family of sponsors, including Little Brown Jug, Canadian Club, Royal Sports, Paramount Services Limited, Not Autocorp, Boston Pizza, Breezy Bend Country Club, Assiniboia Downs, and Coolbet Canada. Folks, we will see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already. And spread the word. Tell a friend about Winnipeg Sports Talk. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on WST Daily.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.